Be advised, the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Good evening, everyone. This is Attorney April Mabanas, and you're watching Legal Network for Truthful Elections, or Lente, here on GNN. And joining me as host on the second half of our program will be Attorney Ona Caritos. Last week, we talked about election offenses, and this week, we'll be talking about election and PWDs, or person with disabilities. We'll be joined by people from Commission on Election and also from an organization that focuses on the plight of PWDs, or people with disabilities. But for the first half of our program, we have people from Commission on Elections, or COMELEC. First, we have as our guest is Attorney Emerald Ladra.
Hello.
Good evening, Attorney.
Good evening.
Attorney Ladra is from the COMELEC Planning Office. And also, we also have Attorney Erwin Caliba.
Yes.
Good evening, Attorney Erwin. Attorney Erwin is from the Office of Commissioner Rene Sarmiento.
Yes.
Okay. So just to start our discussion po, attorneys, no? So maybe just a little background on how long have you been with the COMELEC, and siguro po how long have you been involved in respect to the plight of the PWDs po?
Yes,
Attorney
I
Emerald.
have been in COMELEC for 11 years, but I started serving in COMELEC at the office of the chairman, and then at the field office of the National Capital Region, and now I'm at the planning department as the department head.
Okay.
And for the PWDs, I've been involved since I was at the office of the National Capital Region.
Oh, when was this po, Attorney
That was 2003.
So medyo matagal na, Attorney.
Matagal na.
So ano po yung mga first na mga involvement po in terms po sa plight ng PWDs? Like, ano po ba yung mga naging projects niyo before po?
Oo. In fairness to COMELEC, no, even before I was there, resolutions, kasi may mga batas na tayo in place,
Yes.
where accessibility of polling precincts to the PWDs are always emphasized. And in every resolution during election period that COMELEC promulgates, it's always a part of the general instructions, yung pagiging accessible ng lahat ng polling precincts. If pwede sana doon sila, pag meron mga presinto where these PWDs are registered, kung pwede sana doon sa baba, sa ground floor ng mga polling centers. Kasi there are schools, especially sa mga cities and in the National Capital Regions, na may mga second floor yung ating mga polling centers. So, ang sabi ng batas, dapat accessible sa mga PWDs ang ating polling centers. And because many of our registered voters na may kasamang PWDs, most of the time they are located at the second floor or upper floors.
Yes.
So, ang ginawa natin, we always emphasize in our provision that if possible, if feasible, gagawing
Nasa
mga
first
presinto na ito na may PWDs doon sa ground floor.
Okay. So I remember, Attorney, specifically for the GF, for the May 2010 elections, yung Section 32, sabi nga dapat, kung nandun, dapat nasa baba. Also, not only during elections, pero also during registration, sana rin accessible din sa mga PWDs. Kasi madalas nahihirapan sila to go.
During registration, some, if not many of our offices, kasi are located at the upper level also of the building. Kasi usually yan, nagre-rent lang kami eh. We don't really have a building of our own.
Okay.
So, ang nare-rent namin kung sa second floor, upper floors, the PWDs find it difficult really to go up, no? So, as of this time, meron tayong tinatawag na mga satellite registrations. So, the election officers may conduct, or the field officers natin may conduct the registration at satellite offices, which they should coordinate with the provincial election supervisors kasi kailangan ng authority. But at least at this time, pag gusto natin pumunta sa isang lugar, for us to have registration, kasama natin dadalhin yung ating data capturing machines kasi di ba kinukuha yung biometrics natin, we can do that.
Okay. And these satellite stations, not only caters then to PWD, syempre,
Of course.
we don't want naman, parang special eh. We just want them to be treated as we are treated, no, yung mga persons naman without disability. So parang these satellite stations or yung mga registrations, yung mga tao din na without disabilities, they can also register.
They can
in those
also
places.
register
so
there.
parang halo-halo lang rin, di ba?
But one thing that we should like to emphasize also, especially that we're talking about PWDs here, yung ating chairman, it started with Chairman Melo yata, when he gave a memorandum, issued a memorandum, creating as part of the preferential treatment natin sa PWDs, yung ating express lane.
Okay.
For PWDs, senior citizens, and heavily pregnant women.
Attorney Kalibo, these express lanes are both for, not just for PWDs, pero mix na rin siya, and also for registration and also during voting din po ba? Registration and voting at the same time?
Yes, the express lanes, in the May 10, 2010 elections, a resolution was also issued, just like what that's mentioned by Attorney Ladra, catering for PWDs, heavily pregnant women, elderly. However, it's not clear as to the specific implementation of the express lanes.
Yes.
It is up to the interpretation of the Board of Election Inspectors or by the election officers. So I think that has to be looked into also by the COMELEC. But nationwide, I think particularly in the NCR, this was widely implemented. This was widely the order coming from the COMELEC to observe express lanes. In fact, when we have asked some of our office mates, particularly a pregnant woman in our office, she was told to take the express lane in Quezon City.
So talagang may mga places din talagang nag-observe ng express lanes talaga for not just for PWDs but also pa rin sa mga ibang mga
the other sectors.
The reason why the implementation of these express lanes are left also to the EOs to verify kung ano ang applicable sa kanilang areas. Because you see, dito sa NCR, maybe, yung sistema na i-adapt ng ating mga election officers sa NCR may not be applicable doon sa ARMM or in other regions. Pero they are given the initiative, they are given the opportunity kung ano man ang gusto nilang gagawin para ma-implement ito. And Commissioner Sarmiento, for the resumption of registration, because our registration is about to resume again.
When's the registration po?
So, yung sa ARM areas natin, because remember, we will have our August 8, 2011 ARMM elections.
Hopefully. Sure,
so,
ano mo bang?
As of now, wala pa naman tayong batas to postpone. So, insofar as COMELEC is concerned, we really have to start preparing. So for the August 8, 2011 ARMM elections, we will have our registration only for 10 days. And that would be March 21 to March 31.
Okay, so ulitin natin, March
21 to
31 ng registration, specifically for the ARM election.
Only. Sila muna.
Opo.
Kasi gusto nating tututukan sila. And we want also to prepare our voters list for the August 8, 2011.
Okay. How about naman po dun po sa general registration po sa sa national and local elections? In April.
So until 2012 yan. 2012. But of course, hindi natin gustong sabihin na yung mga Filipinos who want also to become registered voters, magparehistro sila only at the last minute.
Yes,
So ngayon pa lang sinasabi na natin, we're trying to encourage them to go early to our offices of the election officers para makapag-fill up sila kaagad ng registration forms.
And at the same time, maiawasan nila yung pagsisiksikan on the last day of
Registration period.
Attorney Erwin, I've heard na it's actually the office of Commissioner Rina Sarmiento who actually is in charge of yung developing rules and also administrative regulations when it comes to PWDs. Tama po ba yun? Or ano po ba yung mga project po, specifically sa office po ni Commissioner Sarmiento?
Being the commissioner as a focal person for the PWDs, bali yung responsibility inako na namin, we will be functioning as the secretariat for the interagency and NGO network for empowering these the PWDs. So
So how will it work po, itong interagency and NGO network?
First, we had the initial meeting, and all concerned agencies and the civic, what do you call this? The groups, the PWD groups, met in February 17 and agreed to form an interagency and NGO working group. And this includes from the government, the COMELEC, Commission on Human Rights. We also have the ILG, the SWD, Department of Education. And from the sector, civic society groups, we have the Libertas, we have AKAP Pinoy, Life Haven, Cerebral Palsy Association of the Philippines. What else? Other groups pa? Kampi, kapisanan ng mga may kapansanan sa Pilipinas. The members of the interagency working group are divided into different committees.
Okay.
Yung committees na na-form last time are the following: the Legal and Policy Making Committee. This would be headed by the Libertas. Then we have the Information and Awareness Committee, to be headed by the Department of Education and co-headed by AKAP Pinoy. Then the Registration Committee, COMELEC will be heading it, being the agency in charge for Registration Committee. And the voting committee also to be headed by the COMELEC, and the monitoring to be headed by the Commission on Human Rights.
And one most important organization that we forgot to mention earlier is PPCRB.
PPCRB, sorry.
And yung PPCRB, in fact, was very instrumental doon sa pag-assist natin mga voters in 2010 elections. They have this memorandum of agreement between PPCRB, headed by the Honorable Ambassador De Villa, and of course the AKAP Pinoy. Kasi yung AKAP Pinoy, umbrella organization ito ng 493 organizations all over the country of PWDs. So sila yung nagkaroon ng memorandum of agreement, and PPCRB, alam naman natin, almost in every polling centers meron silang help desk. Was able to really assist PWDs, and we would like also to thank, of course, si Ma'am De Villa for doing that.
So, but mag-zero in po tayo last 2010 national, local, no, so barangay elections. Ano po ba yung mga assessment nyo on the common problems na na-encounter ng mga PWDs? Like, for example, yun nga, inaccessible ng mga polling places, like, nahihirapan pa sila, do they need assistance sometimes if they have disabilities? Ano po ba yung mga reports na natanggap nyo from different groups?
Usually, kasi pag, as I've said, yung resolutions natin not only talks about the requirement of these polling precincts na doon sa baba pag mayroong PWDs, but we also have this provision on assistors, like providing assistors to people who are illiterates and with disabilities. So we have identified at least 4 groups. Pag mag-voting, we have the election officers na pwedeng tumulong sa kanila, and yung relatives within the 4th degree of consanguinity and affinity. So pwedeng mag-assist din yan sa kanila. And the people also na may trust and confidence ang PWD can be chosen as their assistor. Pero kailangan kasambahay nila. And even yung accredited citizens arm can help them. But in the last 3 that I mentioned, dapat 3 times lang sila allowed to assist a PWD or an illiterate. The EOs can assist many times hanggang kailangan sila. And